This is the big one, page 6. Pages 1 through 5 were all about you trying options, deciding on a direction to follow, testing different options. Pages 1 through 5 are all the build-up for page 6 to help you make better design decisions with page 6. Page 6 is the real thing. You're going to really lay out the article now. You're going to look back through pages 1 through 5. You're going to look at all your favorites and use them to design page 6. Now, page 6, I've given you a sort of schematic of your options. As I said before, we're doing a fairly standard, fairly traditional 2-column layout for this article. We're going to have the headline and main subhead across the top. We're going to have 2 columns of text, and then we have a little bit of publication info that could go on the bottom, on the far right or second to far right column. It could span 2 columns. It could go up on the top right in the far right column. Again, fairly straightforward, fairly traditional print layout. I want you to do a deep dive into making a traditional print layout look its absolute best before you start trying to reinvent it. So, we're going to go back to InDesign. You're going to create a page 6, turn on your grid, and I would start again from scratch. You're going to import the text, or place the text into a new text frame. So file, create a text frame, file, place, find the text file, import it. You will have the entire article now. Now you want to go back, look at your choices. My choices are Baskerville Regular, 9 on 10, Helvetica Bold, 9 on 10 for the subheads. And I'm going to go with the space after. I just like the way that looks a little bit better. Again, you don't have to make the choices that I've made. Make your own choices. The whole point of pages 1 through 5 are for you to test things out and help you decide what you want to do. So, I want to talk for a second about text frames. You see this main frame here that I created. And I only have like 6, 7 paragraphs visible because it defaults to being, what is the default? Helvetica 10 on 14.4, which is fairly large type. You'll notice that there is, down in this lower right-hand corner of the text frame, there's a little red plus. What that means is that there's more type, there's more text in here that's not visible because there wasn't enough room. If you click on that, you'll get this sort of loaded text icon, and you can see what else is in there. When I'm doing a layout in InDesign, I like to do exactly what I just did. I like to have my frame or frames on the page, and then I like to have an extra one just off in the workspace, just so I can see whatever overflow there is. So I'm going to select all of the text. I'm going to set it to Baskerville Regular, 9 on 10. That's my text size. You can see at this size, well, most of the article fits in here. Now, I'm going to start talking about linked text frames. I want to just have the headline and the subhead across the top here. So I want that to be in its own frame. I'm going to pull the bottom of this frame up so it is just within this one row of my grid. I'm going to turn on my hidden characters. And I want to talk about how best to handle text between frames. So now this is linked to here. I can bring this over so that it's 2 grid columns wide. Oops. Sometimes you have to move things around a bit to grab the right part. So that's my one text column. I'm going to click the plus sign because I know there's more there because I see that red plus sign. Draw another text column here. And I'm going to again click this and just have an overflow. Now this is off of my page, but I just want to see it for my overflow. Now, basically what's happening here is wherever there's less room for a text frame than there is text, it goes to the next one. It defaults to not showing you the connections, but if you go to sorry, I can never remember where this is because I use it so rarely. View extras, show text threads. This will show you how they're connected. That this one goes to this one. From here it goes up to here. From here it goes up to here. That's off by default. I find it a little distracting, so I tend to keep it off, but maybe I'll leave it on for you guys just to help you visualize. Now, a lot of people, when they're first starting out with this, they'll be like, well, I don't want this paragraph text. This is the beginning of my article. I want this frame to just be about the headline and the subhead. And a lot of new designers would be like, oh, I'll just put in a bunch of returns. And now it jumps down to the next one. Now, this is problematic. This is not the best way to do this. And I'll show you why now. So if I go in here and say, well, I want my headline to be bigger, I'm going to make it 30 points on, 36 points of leading. Well, that looks pretty good, but then, oh, it also selected those. And now I have to go in here and delete these. But now what if I decide this is too big, I want it a little smaller. Oh, then that is back, and I have to add another return. Oh, but then I have it there. Oh, it's not a good system. It doesn't work very well. There's a much better way to do this. If you do now I'm going to bring this down in size because I went and made this the most frustrating combination possible. Make it 18 on 24. Make this guy 18 on 24. Now, I'm seeing my line returns. I'm seeing my spaces because I have invisible characters on. If I go here, instead of this line return, if I do enter, not the return key, this is important, it's not the return key just gives you a line return. But if you do enter, which on a full-size keyboard is actually over by the number pad, on a compact laptop keyboard you have to hit the function key, Fn, and return to get enter. You get this character, which just means go to the next frame. So no matter where this is, no matter how big or small this text frame is, so I'm going to make this text frame much larger. As soon as it encounters that enter function, it will go to the next frame, no matter what. this is the best way to do it. And now I can play with this to my heart's content. I can make it absolutely tiny. It doesn't matter because I have a character in there that's telling the software very, very specifically, just go to the next text frame. From this point, I want to go to the next text frame, no matter what. Styling your headline and your subhead. Remember, you have 2 points of hierarchy here. Your headline is the main one, is your primary in your hierarchy. Your subhead is secondary in your hierarchy. You want to communicate this clearly. So, of course, we have several methods for doing this. We can do it with size. We can do it with weight. You know, if we have them the same size but different weights, that indicates the hierarchy pretty clearly. We can have them as the same weight but different sizes. That will indicate the hierarchy very clearly. We can also work with a second typeface because we can use 2 different typeface families. Now, what I would not do here, I would not introduce a third typeface. So whatever your choices are, if you have decided on combining 2, that's fine. If you have decided on just working with 1 type family, then you could introduce a second typeface for the headline, but at that point you might want to just stick with the same family, work with size and style and weight. So because I'm using Baskerville and Helvetica, I might look at Helvetica Light for my secondary headline here. That kind of looks pretty good to me. You want to remember that your text typefaces are generally spaced for small text use. So you're going to want to go in here and tweak the kerning if you're using a larger size for your headlines. You can probably hear my cat meowing right now. Don't mind her. So, kern this beautifully as needed, and then you want to go through and style the document text to match the decisions that you've made. So I've decided on Baskerville 9 on 10 for my article, Helvetica Bold 9 on 10 for my subheads. When you style a subhead, you may then remove the label. The labels are just there to help you, keep you from getting too confused before you've applied your styling. Once you've applied your styling, then you no longer need those labels, and your labels really shouldn't be in the final layout. Now, I've got a little bit of a problem. My article is a little bit longer than my layout allows. You can see I've got 3 more lines of article here, plus I need to do something with the publication info. Now, you have a couple of options here. You can cheat a little bit, what we call cheating, that you can bring your your text column's a little bit lower. I don't really like this because I want some space between the text column and the footer, so I'm going to undo that. I could also cheat it at the top. I could, instead of going from the top of this row, I could just jump up to the top of the gutter before, and that actually fits the whole article in here. And another thing I can do is I can tweak my text size. You know, I can say, well, I like this sizing, but I need to fit in just a hair more. I'm gonna just give it a little bit less leading. So instead of 9 points, I could do 9.75. That will make it all fit. You know, so it's just a little bit less leading. I think that's what I'm going to do, but as with all these things, print it out and see. Print it out, see what works. You can tweak it as needed. Now I have my publication info in its own box up here. I want to go in here to the end of the article. I want to enter the enter key, so function enter on my laptop keyboard, so that it jumps to the next box no matter what. And now I'm going to look at how to indicate my publication info within the hierarchy. Now, if I wanted to have this at the bottom of the page, then I would really need to work on actual copy fit, making this all fit in here properly. But, you know, I'm going to look at it at the top of the page up here. Remember, you have options here. This is up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to maybe look at Helvetica regular and go with a much smaller type size. 7:9 maybe. I feel that even though this is up at the top of the page, it's over on the right-hand side, and it's very small, so I think that indicates you know, where it sits in the hierarchy. Now, there are some issues with the breaks and the rags. We're going to get into that next week. What I want you to do with page 6, do everything you can to design this as beautifully as possible. Do not worry about the breaks and the rags and widows and orphans. If you're already familiar with these concepts, we're going to dive into them and really finesse that stuff in our second week of this project. If you're not familiar, well, you're going to learn all about that stuff. But don't worry about it for part 1. We're going to really dig into that in part 2. What I do want you to do, however, is to select this entire... Before we do this, I'm going to introduce it a little bit. There are a few things that people tend to do that are sort of leftovers from the typewriter. I talked about typewriter being a very important technological development in modern typography. One of the big issues with mechanical typewriters is that they were monospaced. Every single character was the exact same width. So that made it necessary on a mechanical typewriter to put 2 spaces at the end of every sentence. You had to do this on a mechanical typewriter, otherwise the sentences were too close together. It was hard to tell where one sentence ended and another began. We're not using mechanical typewriters anymore. We're not using monospaced typefaces. We have a space character that's wider. So modern professional typography, we use 1 space after a period to indicate a new sentence. Some people like to debate this, and it honestly doesn't matter if you're doing a little blog or you're making a yard sale flyer. But if you're a professional designer, which you all aspire to be, you need to know this rule and you need to follow it one space after a period within text. Now, a lot of writers are in the habit of doing the double space, so as designers, we need to go in and check. Another thing that is left over from the mechanical typewriter is people doing a double dash when they mean, or a double hyphen, I should say, when they mean an M dash. An M dash is a very long dash. Mechanical typewriters only had one single dash character. With digital typefaces, we have a wide variety of different dashes, and so we don't do double dashes, we'll do an M dash instead. So you can go through with invisibles turned on, and you can look for every single instance and of a double space and a double dash, and you can try to fix it. It's kind of painstaking, and you may miss some. Or you can take advantage of the computer and let the computer do some of this work for you. So what I want you to do is select this entire article. Then you want to zoom into a size at which you can read it. And you go to Edit, Find Change. Within the Find field, you type double space, spacebar twice, and you do change to single space, one space. And you simply do Find Next. And this will show you where there is a double space. If you do change, it will change it to a single space. Now you have the option to change all, but I find that's not always the best idea. I find it's much better idea to just walk through with the software, look at every single instance it's showing you, just because sometimes people do funny things and there can be a bunch of spaces where they mean to do something else with it. So go through, find next, change it to a single space, find next, change it to a single space, etc., etc. Go all the way through. There are a bunch of double spaces in here, and this is very consistent with what you're going to find in the professional working world, working as a designer. A lot of writers forget this all the time, and some writers refuse to not do it. So, as professional designers, professional typographers, the onus is on us. Find next, change, find next, change, go all the way through. Do it for the entire document. As you can see, there are quite a few in this document. And keep an eye on it. Make sure that it's not something else. Now, the search is done. What I like to do is actually run the search a second time, because sometimes people will double space and accidentally just hit a third space, you know, or they'll double space and there'll be 4 in there. You never know. So it's a good idea to just do the same thing and run it again. I'm telling you to select everything within these linked text frames to do your searches, because if you don't, it will go through every text frame on all 6 pages, and it will be kind of maddening and take forever. So edit, find, change. It will have the same search. Find next, and you can see there's one right here where there's still a double space. What that meant before was there had been a triple space, and we changed it we found the 2, it changed it to 1, but it's still as a double space. So change, find next, that's it. All right, good. Done. Let's select it all again. The other thing we want to find are double dashes. Now, just a word about dashes at first. This is a double dash where the writer meant an M dash. I'm going to quickly over here show you the differences. So that's a dash. That's just the dash key on your keyboard. It's to the right of the 0. If you hold down Option, you get what they call an N dash, E-N, and that's double the width of the hyphen. And if you hold down Shift Option, you get an M dash, EM, and that's double that width again. When someone types a double dash or a double hyphen like that, they're actually mean for it to be an M dash. But there are many places where it's perfectly suitable to do a dash. Compound words are one, so-called. Image-based. Compound words are like that. Also, when a word breaks, when it breaks across 2 lines, like compelling here and knowledge here, the software will automatically put in a dash. That's right. And now I've also noticed that there's another place up here. If you use any visual medium at all, if you make a poster type, the writer meant M dashes there, but they just forgot to put in the right ones. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to select all, File, Find Change. We're going to go to our Find What and do a double dash, double hyphen. Here we want to change it to an M dash. Now I know M dash is Shift Option dash, but if you forget, you can go over here and you have all kinds of different things that you may be searching for that aren't necessarily a key on your keyboard. And hyphens and dashes are one of them. M dash, that's what we want, EM. All right, so we're changing the double dash to an M dash. Find next, change it, find next, change, find next. That's it. All right, so that's done. Now, we also noticed that up here they meant an M dash, so we can go in here and do Shift Option dash, Shift Option dash. All right. The last thing I want you to do before you call page 6 done, select it all and run spell check. Yes, it's the writer's responsibility to make sure everything is spelled right. Yes, there's usually a proofreader who proofreads things after you when you're in a professional shop. It's still part of your job as a designer to check spelling. I can't even count the number of times that I've caught a spelling error that a writer missed or that a proofreader missed. And it's, you know, it's not that they're not doing their jobs, it's just that no one's perfect and everyone makes mistakes and everyone misses things. And it's also really easy to run spell check. It's built in. We don't have to be human dictionaries now. We can just go to Edit, Spelling, Check Spelling. And it will tell you things like uncapitalized sentences. You can skip. It'll tell you words that it doesn't know, like it doesn't know AIGA. You can just tell it to skip those. Letter forms. This is something that design writers, we all think this is a word. The dictionary does not. So you can do ignore all. It doesn't know proper names. So that's it. It went through. It found something uncapitalized. It found some words it didn't know, but it didn't find any errors. So that's good. Now, at this point, you want to print this file out. You want to look it over. If there's anything that you think doesn't look good, tweak it, make it look its best, make it look beautiful. Do not yet worry about the rags, about hyphenation, about line breaks. We're going to really dig into that in week number 2. What you want to do, you want to bring printouts, all the printouts that you've done with your favorites marked, and a printout of this page 6. Bring them all to class. Bring your working InDesign files. In part 2, we're going to really get into the fine-tuning and finesse of this layout and really make it sing. And that's that.